What up, people? Welcome to the long awaited return of WrestleMania Memory Series. I'm currently up to what? Episode 17, and I'm going to pick up where I left off, which would have been WrestleMania 21. Yes, WrestleMania 21 emanated from Anaheim, California. The year is 2005, and the theme of this WrestleMania was WrestleMania Goes Hollywood. Now, for those who are not or a little bit unfamiliar with my WrestleMania Memory series, I'm going to give you a little bit of a understanding, a little bit of definition of what the WrestleMania series is. Sorry for the pause. WrestleMania Memory Series is me giving you my thoughts, my memories on past WrestleManias, strictly from my head, strictly from the knowledge that I have in this big noggin of mine. Yes. So there's no notes, there's no captions, there's no pause, there's no photos. It's just strictly what I remember. And what I remember about this WrestleMania was the fact that this was supposed to be, it ended up being the passing of the torch, the changing of the guard. We are still in the world of Raw and SmackDown. So we have two world champions. We have champion on Raw, champion on SmackDown. Champion on Raw was, of course, the stalwart Triple H in his umpteenth title reign, maybe number 11 at the time. And he was the leader of Evolution, which was a four horseman type faction. It started out with him, Ric Flair, the Animal Batista, and the Legend Killer, Randy Orton. The previous SummerSlam 2004, when Randy Orton became world champion for the very first time, a championship in which Triple H was trying unsuccessfully to regain when he lost that WrestleMania 20 in a triple threat versus Shawn Michaels and He Who Shall Not Be Named. Triple H realized, okay, the young boy has that championship. He's my protege. He is not showing the proper respect. He is trying to take over my group. This is my group. And he's been showing his ass lately, but I've been giving him the benefit of the doubt because I was the man. But now the championship makes him the man. He has to go. So the night after the night after SummerSlam, Randy Orton successfully defends his championship, I believe in a rematch against He Who Shall Not Be Named that begins with a bin and ends with a wah. And they come into the ring and they have a championship celebration. And this is where the famous thumbs up, thumbs down became a thing. So Batista, who was supposed to be just a strong man, the silent strong type, with no aspirations of his own, he started having a groundswell of supports. I'll get to that in a very few minutes. So Triple H tells Batista, put him on top of put him on your shoulders. He's the man. He's the champion. And Randy Orton, his gullible self at the time, he gets up there and he just thinks he's the man. He thinks he's the leader of Evolution now. Until Triple H, with the thumbs up and his smile, turns into a frown, and the thumbs up becomes a thumbs down. And you know what that thumbs down means? Means Randy Orton is out of Evolution. Batista commences to drop Randy Orton on his back, and they beat him down, they bloody him, and within less than a month, Triple H is now once again your world champion of Monday Night Raw. But this time, things started bubbling underneath the surface. Yes, they did. Because Batista, as I said before, started having a groundswell of support. And he starts showing his charisma in various ways, but very subtle ways. Now, what ended up happening was there was an elimination chamber at the beginning of the year. I believe the title wasn't held up. I don't believe, but there's an elimination chamber with Benoit, Jericho, Randy Orton, Triple H, and Batista. And Batista's role was supposed to just make sure that Triple H remains champion. There was a chance that Triple H was able to save Batista from elimination, and Triple H like fell back. Now, showing what kind of intelligence Batista had, Batista saw that. And he realized, okay, my man isn't the man he portrays himself to be. He doesn't want me to be great. Great, fine. I ain't stressing it. So going into the Royal Rumble, it's Batista and John Cena. John Cena has been rising on the SmackDown brand, which I'll get to in a very few minutes. Batista and John Cena knock each other out of the Royal Rumble simultaneously. And they have to start over again. This is when Vince McMahon famously tore his quad on his way to the ring, walking to the ring, and had to be flat on his ass, restarting the Royal Rumble. Guess what? Batista won. Now, in the leading up to WrestleMania, Triple H feared Batista. He knew Batista could whip his ass. So, of course, he didn't want Batista to choose him to be the man that he's going after the championship. He was like, why don't you go to SmackDown? JBL, he's right for the picking. Why don't you choose him? And Batista was well versed in this type of mental manipulation. And he said, yeah, okay. And just so happened, Ric Flair and Triple H thought they got one over him, talking about how he's dumb, stupid, he fell for it, blah, 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 blah. Didn't know Batista was listening the whole time. So when Batista was about to make his announcement, he acted like he was going to choose JBL. And he did the exact same thing that Triple H did to Randy Orton. He gave him a thumbs up, and it turned into a thumbs down. Gave him a Batista bomb through the table in which they were doing their signing. He signed the contract. It was Batista versus Triple H in the main event of WrestleMania. Now, what people don't realize or don't remember is John Cena ended up being the man for longer than people wanted him to be, but he ended up being the man. He ended up being the standard bearer. He ended up being the face of the company. It wasn't intended that way. Batista was set up to be the man, the face of the company, the standard bearer. Hence, that's why he had the WrestleMania main event. John Cena, on the other hand, he was on SmackDown. He was a U.S. champion multiple times. He was right into the middle of his thugonomics. He was the anti-hero, and he was supposed to be the underdog, the everyman versus JBL, the fluent character, millionaire character. They had a very underwhelming match at WrestleMania. But John Cena did win the championship. John Cena's wrestling ability was laughed at, scoffed at, the whole nine. And that's why he ended up not getting the top billing. Batista defeated Triple H in the main event of WrestleMania, which was an outstanding match. They ended up having, I believe, two other matches afterward, one at Backlash, one finally culminating in Hell in a Cell, in which Batista ended up finally cementing his place as a main eventer. John Cena, as history will show, John Cena ended up being the man for over a decade, but it was not meant to. It was not. That was not the plan whatsoever. Now we had other matches. We had. I tell you the truth, his victory was very muted compared to Batista. Batista was the one who they was focusing on at the end of WrestleMania, holding up that championship, bringing in a new era of WWE. It was not John Cena. We had other matches. We had Big Show versus Akabono in a full uh, sumo match that people don't remember, and I'm actually surprised that I remember. The event opened up with Eddie Guerrero's second to last appearance at WrestleMania. And I say that when I get to WrestleMania 22, you'll understand what I'm saying. But his last physical appearance at WrestleMania was WrestleMania 21, in which they opened up the card, wrestling Rey Mysterio. The catch on this, the hook on this was they were tag team champions with each other. But Eddie Guerrero was obsessed with beating Rey Mysterio, with proving that he was better than Rey Mysterio. He had never beaten Rey Mysterio 1-on-1, hence the storyline. And in this match, Rey Mysterio came out ahead again, came out on top again. Now, this was leading into a heel turn in which we first got introduced to Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Dirty Dom, dirty Dom. Dominic Mysterio was 9 years old at the time, and this culminated into a ladder match for the custody of Dominic Mysterio, in which Eddie Guerrero proclaimed that he was Dominic's true father, but they needed to get custody, so they had a ladder match for the custody of Dominic Mysterio. This was Dominic Mysterio's first appearance on WWE TV immediately after the heel turn. The beginning of this heel turn, the subtle seeds of this heel turn started at this WrestleMania. So this WrestleMania 21, WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, is actually the beginning of what we know now as Dirty Dominic Mysterio. See how everything goes 360 degrees? We had a first Money in the Bank ladder match. Star-studded affair. Christian Cage of AEW now. Chris Jericho at AEW, perhaps back to WWE now. Kane, Edge, but somebody else. Oh, Chris Benoit. Yes, that's right. He who shall not be named. And you know who won the initial Money in the Bank? Yeah, people might say he's Mr. Money in the Bank himself. Edge. Yes, Edge. Or Cope. Or Adam Copeland. Yes, he won the first Money in the Bank. He's the first person to cash in. What? Did he cash in 2 or 3? Cashed in 2 Money in the Banks contracts, but he only won 1 ladder match. CM Punk won back-to-back ladder matches for the Money in the Bank contract, but Edge cashed in 2 with only winning 1 Money in the Bank. This is where Money in the Bank started. And it was a WrestleMania staple for years until it spawned off to its own premier live event in itself. So yeah, those are my memories of WrestleMania 21. WrestleMania Goes Hollywood. Glad to get this off my chest. Glad to get back in the swing of things. And hopefully, within the next week, we will go to WrestleMania 22, that emanated from Chicago, in which the main event was John Cena versus Triple H. And we had a triple threat of Randy Orton, Kurt Angle, and Eddie Guerrero. Oh, my bad. Rey Mysterio for the World Championship, amongst others. Yeah. So, until next time, I bid y'all adieu. Let's get out of here with a little bit of to be continued. Goodbye.